Hello, and welcome to the second night of Hanukkah. Sarah Hurwitz speaks to the idea of tzedakah, the idea of justice. Let's listen to her words on this second night of Hanukkah. We proudly point out that tzedakah means justice, not charity. But why does that distinction matter? Charity is given out of the kindness of our hearts when we feel moved to do so. Tzedakah is considered mandatory under Jewish law. We're supposed to give it whether we feel like it or not. It's like ensuring fair procedures in a courtroom. We shouldn't just do so when we're feeling particularly generous, but all the time, because otherwise the system doesn't work. Ditto for tzedakah. In Jewish thinking, society simply doesn't work when we neglect those in need. From 8 Nights, 8 Jewish Values, Reflections for Hanukkah on the Jewish Obligation to Build a Better World. For a long time, we here at Lason Race have maintained that justice work, specifically racial justice work, should never depend upon dominant culture's transient feeling states. Hurwitz explains the reason for this above, and she explains it well. Still, despite that admonition, the fact that many are indeed driven by this very thing presents a real challenge. That so much of justice work is undertaken by many whose feelings dictate their response to any injustice that they are confronted with. So many elements and issues come into play. Sometimes the mental calculus that we engage in before right action is taken makes us tarry and can result in justice delayed or denied. Is the person or group deserving in our eyes? Is there residue of past hurts that the person or group or situation can trigger an activated response, such as fear or contempt? Do we approach the principle of justice from a stance that speaks of scarcity? That is, if we apply justice here, will there be enough to extend to others we may feel are more deserving? This mental calculus can be seen when we assess the other and the harm visited upon them. Are they sympathetic? Have they lived a life worthy of our consideration? What are the mitigating factors? What are the aggravating factors? If we extend now, will it be a one and done, an acute need for justice, or will it demand more of us from its chronicity? What are our obligations afterward? Just how much justice are we buying exactly, and will we ultimately be depleted, a well run dry? This is compounded when we turn to the corporate and the collective. Now we're faced with systems, institutions, and our own complicity and collusion in those systems and institutions that make the need for applied justice necessary in the first place. Justice that invites, even demands, a relentless inward examination at and acknowledgement of our perpetration of the harm that we seek to mend. That is daunting. It can be paralyzing. Which is why our transitory affective states can thwart our authentic commitment to a just world. Which is why we need to say to ourselves and to each other, justice anyway. The feelings we may feel are uncomfortable, as is the real fact that we do these mental exercises in the first place, no matter how split-second those discernments may be. When I am faced with the man on the corner of Broadway in Lemon Grove, I know, despite even my very best efforts, that I am indeed doing an assessment, both of him and of the situation, of both his individual situation and of the societal forces that led him to hold a bottle of Gatorade and a sign that asks for food money as he stands in the median and dares to hold my gaze in the red light. What are my split-second motivations and agendas? Am I looking for a reason to say yes, or more accurately, am I looking for a reason to break the gaze? And thus the affirmation of our shared humanity, connection, and shared story. This is where neglect comes into play. I cannot unknow what I now know. I cannot unsee what I can now see. The action I take to look away, to gaze with no small amount of resentment and shame into the middle distance as I sit at the red light until it turns green and then I can make my getaway. To the crucible of my split-second ruminations about a society that forced both of our hands in this shared moment is mine to make and to own. That I may or may not engage in the moment is important, but not the only important thing. I could hand over the dawdler and get my watered down Kool-Aid and be on my way. I can take the time to think about the deeper structural issues and choose to engage there. What is important is that I saw and was seen, and my actions, both internal and external, and my extrapolation from the micro to the macro, or not, that it all matters. What matters is that my feelings must not throw me into the crisis at the stoplight right now, near the car wash. My values and commitment to the world I say I want, hopefully traveled within me, embedded into my marrow, before I even turned the key into my Santa Fe 2 miles away. When I am acting from practiced conviction, the actions don't become easier. I won't lie to you. They don't become easier, but the clarity is greater. So we eschew charity for connection. We choose intentionality over the one-off. And we make sure that our convictions, not our feelings, are the hand that navigates the vehicle that is our life, and thusly our engagement with this world. And the second night comes to a close.